The advice of Teddy Roosevelt. Speak softly, carry the stick.
Richie did a fine job last week.
Oh, thank you.
Not in me. On me.
That's right.
There was a lot that I learned at the forum, right? Just hearing.
Good evening, everyone.
And I'm like,
Do we have anyone from the Ministerial Alliance here tonight? If not, we would like to open the meeting with the pledge. David?
my husband
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is on the consent agenda section. With the passing of Councilperson Williams, we have his unexpired term, which is coming due here in a matter of a couple of months. So I'm requesting the appointment of Carolyn Bowen. Carolyn is previously held the council position, or one of the council positions in Ward 5, and she is also a member of the Rolla Housing Authority. In sort of keeping with the philosophy, when I requested the appointment of Monty Jordan, at least in my 26 years here, I think this is only about the third or fourth time there's an unexpired term. But in any event, I'm generally going to default to a previous person that previously held one of these elected officials, so as to ensure that there's experience that's filling that seat, in this case for a few months, and then the people in that particular ward could select whatever it is that they believe they would like to represent the interest. So in Carolyn's case, she's really no surprise to Ward 5 citizens who had previously elected her. So with that, that's my request.
So do we need to make a motion?
Need to make a motion.
I move that we accept the appointment of Carolyn Bowen for Ward 5.
Second.
Is there opportunity for discussion at all, or?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make a quick comment. This is nothing to do with Ms. Boland, but more about our packet in the sense that we did find out the seat was going to be getting filled in our packet over the weekend, but we didn't have any information about the candidate in terms of who it was going to be, or a little bit of a bio, which we sometimes get with some of our other appointments. And for this kind of appointment, just seemed to me that it would be not unreasonable to at least just look over who it's going to be, so we can, in our role in advice and consent of council, just have a little bit clearer pictures of who we're confirming. So I was just wondering if it's possible to think about having till next session to just maybe get a little bio and have a little information, if that's not unreasonable.
Okay, before council members respond, I guess there was a little bit of a miscommunication between me and City Hall, because I thought Carolyn's name would have been here. With the other appointments, somebody that's new to a board or commission or council, I would certainly have a bio available. There are not ones on the other two tonight, so those certainly could be deferred, I understand that. But I guess I assumed in this particular case, since she has held this position before, that she would be well known to the people in her ward. So, your choice. Council has any questions or comments regarding David's? If not, there's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No.
No.
The record showed 1 or 2 noes. 2. Carol, are we in a position to swear her in tonight? No, I'm sorry. Not if you get low. Hey, John, on a plat, is that the same 185 feet people respond? This is John Brown's, right?
No, I think.
No, but when I call.
Oh, keep that in mind.
And then where is?
But
I thought it was missing one. And this is 185 as well. So, oh, there it is.
You just need to walk the dog longer, right? To make it correct.
Come on.
Yeah.
I'm getting exercise, Doc. What do you think?
Exactly.
I don't see it.
Carolyn, welcome back, and thank you very much for your willingness to step in and help us out with this position. Moving on to public hearings, we have three. The first one is a resolution approving a major subdivision preliminary plat of South Meadow. Tom?
All right, as he said, this is a major subdivision, and a preliminary plat. The name of the subdivision is proposed to be South Meadow, applicant John Brown. This is located, you may recognize, the southwest corner of State Highway O and Lions Club Drive. This is the property that was declared surplus by the city and sold to the applicant, and it was recently rezoned to the R2 district. It's an undeveloped piece of property. It's now zoned R2, which is for duplexes. This is a street view. It's, as I said, it's just an undeveloped piece of property currently. This is the view of the preliminary plat. They're proposing, it shows 6 lots, but however, lot 1, which has a portion of it is impacted by floodplain, is proposed to be dedicated back to the city as a part of this plat. And so that would leave 5 lots for building duplexes on this plat. This preliminary plat shows the proposed easements that are needed for the planned development. Let's give you an idea of the lot layout in relation to the surrounding properties. The applicant has met with staff preliminarily with a site plan. So this is the site plan, just to give you an idea of what the applicant has in mind for the property. And they kind of needed to review the site plan to know exactly where the easements needed to go in this case. So just in summary, this plat would create 5 residential duplex lots. 1 lot would be dedicated back to the city. And some requirements for this particular development have been waived as a part of the agreement for when the property was sold by the city to the applicant, for example, stormwater and things like that. But other than that, this plat appears to meet all other requirements. And if the preliminary plat is approved, they'll follow up with a final plat once the improvement plans are reviewed and ready to be accepted. They have to extend a sewer for the development. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of the request, however, with a 4-2 vote. Do you have any questions for me before we move to the public hearing?
Rachel?
Just so I know were there any explanations for why it was a 4-2 vote for the 2 who voted against? Did they have concerns or?
There were some neighbors, and they may be here tonight, who had some concern, the ones who were directly adjacent to the property to the south. Concern about the zoning district has less setbacks than would be desired for those neighbors. However, as you saw in the site plan, the developer is planning on being further back from the property line than the zoning district allows.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
There's no other questions. We'll open the public hearing, and then if you have any more questions for follow-up. This time, I would like to open a public hearing. Is there anyone that owns property within 185 feet of the South Meadow subdivision that would like to speak for the preliminary plat? Sir, I don't know where you live. I'm gonna ask 4 questions. So Do you live within or beyond 185 feet of this subdivision?
Our property owns it.
Okay. So do you want to speak for?
No.
Okay. So there's no one else. Is there anyone that owns property within 185 feet of this subdivision that would like to speak against the preliminary plat?
Come on.
If you can, sir, just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Gene Bingham, and my address is 816 Highway O.
Gene, there's a microphone right there. If you just come over just a wee bit. That's good, thank you.
Do I need to state it again, or
No.
could you hear? Okay. And our property, we've owned the property there since '58, and it joins our property. It's 300 and some feet from Highway O to the back of our property. And it's all along that. It joins us all along that. And our concern is that privacy concern is one of them. Are they going to be two-story, or do we know yet? Three-story, or what?
I think John will be able to, the developer will be able to answer that, but right now, that's not decided. That's not, council has a limitation on the heights, and Tom, where's Tom?
He's looking. He's looking.
Okay. I don't remember if it's two-story or three-story for a duplex, but the developer has a plan that he's going to show council as to what it will look like.
Okay.
And I think it's a one-story, but
Well, it'll be at least two-story then.
I believe it's one-story, but they'll have an image.
Oh, you think one story?
Yeah, he'll present a layout of it.
Okay. Well, see, that makes a lot of difference in privacy concern as to where they're gonna be, because, you know, the house sits right there next to it.
Yeah, John, I think John came in, didn't he?
Yeah.
John, I know we have a presentation later, but just to keep the flow of things, could you answer the gentleman's question now?
Absolutely. I've got a picture.
Okay.
Can I come forward?
Yeah, if you please.
I'll show Gene here. We've built this 3 or 4 times. I'm John Brown.
John,
Nice to
yeah,
meet you. There's a picture. It's a 1-story, all brick, very nice construction. I know ideally you'd like to have single family there, but I don't think single family works very good on Lions Club Drive. It's going to be a busy street. And I worked collaboratively with the RMU, Rodney's here, and with the city and myself to try to figure out what would be best for that property. And they decided they didn't want any fourplexes. They wanted only duplexes. So RMU took it through city already to make sure it was only going to be duplexes, and this is a single story. And as you're aware, on that property, we have all those trees back there.
Yes.
And we've moved forward as far as we can to preserve all those trees, because we want privacy too.
There's two large trees in front, next to Highway O.
We're trying to, if you, I wonder if we can
Yeah,
get that
I'll
one.
tell you what, council's gonna miss this conversation here, the way we're doing this.
John, check this, there's an overhead here that would work, and everybody at home would be able to see it as well. We'll do it.
If the information,
Similar to the ones that are
yeah,
on
if the information is gonna be submitted later, we could defer. I was just kind of hoping
So
for a
here?
quick answer on the height.
Upside down or upside down?
There we go.
John, you realize you're in the section here voting against this, you know?
I was asked,
Okay. Go ahead.
you want me to sit down until my turn, or?
No.
I was just trying to answer
Are
questions.
are we gonna have more of this presentation later?
very similar to the ones that are by, off Vichy.
Is council gonna get a look at these pictures and other
No,
information?
the duplexes would be a by right type development from if
Okay,
the
but-
plat is approved.
Okay,
So there wouldn't be
so
any
if
reason-
that's the case, then let's proceed with the presentation so people have the information.
Okay, so you want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it was a collaborative effort with RMU, and this is what they wanted. They wanted a 2-family only, didn't want 4-family for obvious reasons. We probably could have had a smaller plan with more lots there, but I think the lots are good size, and we have five building lots. You know, from a management standpoint, I've been doing this for 41 years. I've built over 1,200 apartments in Rolla. Never had a lawsuit filed against me. We have been voted best of the best for the last 2 years in apartment management. We do a good job on mowing and landscaping. All the driveways will be concrete, and I think it'll be a very nice addition to the city of Rolla. But basically, I want to make sure if anybody has any doubts or questions, I'd like to answer those for you. I hope I've been clear on that. Yes, sir.
I would say, more just a comment, I appreciate that you've gone working with the other entities to try to find something that could be suitable and addressing some of the neighbors' concerns and those kinds of things. I think that's important when something new comes in, and so thanks for doing all that.
We're going to try to preserve all the trees that we can. If that other site plan was up there, it kind of shows where the trees are kind of heavier over by your house.
They're
And
up front,
we're
yeah.
trying to keep those buildings away from it the best that we can.
How far of a setback will it be from our property line?
Well, they actually, Jason had them, I think it was the city minimum. I said, listen, we need to reserve those trees. We actually moved them 20 or 30 feet further. The problem is, as you guys know from the plat, the city owns the right-of-way from Lions Club Drive. It's about 20-foot, 30-foot strip. And we couldn't start before we got past that strip. It's an area we'll have to mow, for perpetuity. But we had to come back, and we only allowed one entrance in because of Lions Club Drive. We had to come back in and then start our parking area. So it's a little further back than probably I would have liked, but we still are trying to keep it as far forward to preserve those trees as possible.
Yeah. Now, that's on the front next to Highway O.
What is?
The trees you're
Yes.
talking about,
Yeah,
that's on
yeah.
the front. And
Yeah.
see, we're to the south of it, so.
Yeah, but it's all along the fence that's between the two. There's heavy vegetation all through
Yeah,
there.
most of it is, the big trees are up front, most of it is just invasive species that's come in, it's small stuff, and some cedars in there, there's some.
Well, I'm gonna try to leave all I can,
And-
because leave a good buffer as best we can.
So the setback on the south side then is how far, do you know?
We'd have to pull that plat back up to know exactly. See, that line right there is the build line. And so we moved as far forward.
Can we switch the image?
This area here is still owned by the city, so I had to move back past that line because that's not my property.
This is where the setbacks, we own all of this in here,
Right.
all the way down.
But all your trees are in this triangle right here.
Right up in
Real
here.
heavy,
Yeah.
right through here.
Right through here.
And so we're not even close to those. I think you'll be fine with that. And I'll preserve all that I can. I don't want to cut any trees down, it's just kind of a pain. to
Well,
move.
there's not hardly any, just small trees right in here. Just most of them are cedars. The big trees are up in here.
Yeah, they're right here.
Yeah,
on this,
the large trees, yeah.
Southeast corner, yeah. There's a big triangle right there where there's an easement. That's where all those trees are back in there.
But what's required on the setback?
Tom will have to answer that. Tom will have to answer that.
It's 10.
But I know you said one time it was gonna one thing and then added another 5 feet, and I didn't understand all that.
Right.
Planning and zoning.
Right, the R2 district on the rear setback, which would be the lots that don't front on Highway O, is, the required setback is 10 feet, and they're showing a 10-foot utility easement. And I can't make this any bigger for you, but the building is shown about 20 feet away from the property line. That's what's proposed, but all that's required would be 10 feet.
So all this down through here next to us will just be 10-foot setback.
That would be all that would be required, but as you can see, is proposing to be more than that.
Yeah, actually, I talked to Jason, he's the engineer, and we're gonna try to move these buildings forward if we can. Because we own the lot, and we could move them in that lot forward if we have the room, so we're gonna move them as far forward. Again, the whole idea is to leave as much vegetation as possible. I don't wanna take it out, I wanna leave it there. And I'll try to work with you on that. I mean,
Well, you can understand, I mean, privacy, if you're only 10 foot back, that's awfully close to the house there.
well, it's not 10, 10 was the original, we moved it another 10, and we were gonna try to do a little bit more than that.
Oh, okay, so you're saying it's 20 feet back?
Minimum of 20 feet.
Minimum feet, all along this line here
Yeah,
there.
mhm,
Because there's two of the apartments backed right up to our property line there.
Well, no, they're
I mean, they're
20 feet, yeah, the back of the building would be a minimum of 20 feet. And I'll move them forward if I can, certainly.
Okay, John, thank you very much.
Any other questions? I'd be happy to answer them. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Gene, would you like to finish your statement?
Yes, well, that was a priority. Privacy was a priority one, and then we have property, devalue of the property if ever decide to sell it. I figured it would devalue the property. And then there's a security reason. For years, we've market gardened and gardened for a large family. And I don't know, sometimes the produce has a way of sprouting wings. We've had that problem. And that was the three concerns that I had.
I've always been envious of your tomato plants, I gotta tell you.
Pardon?
I've always been envious of your tomato plants.
Oh, well, we don't do as much as we used to, but we've had problems before. So that was all I had
Okay.
to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that owns property within 185 feet of this subdivision that would like to speak against? Is there anyone that owns property outside of the 185 feet of the subdivision that would like to speak for the plat? And finally, is there anyone that owns property outside of the 185 feet of the proposed plat that would like to speak against? If not, this closes the public hearing. Any further questions from council? If not, this particular action requested is a resolution. Nance, would you read the resolution?
A resolution to approve the major subdivision preliminary plat of South Meadow.
I do have a question.
You have a
I'm sorry,
question?
I thought of it
Go
just
ahead.
now. So we're approving the final plat, but this is not the design. We're not approving the design here that's, okay. 'Cause I
This
was
is
gonna
not a
say
PUD. It's not
Okay.
necessarily what you see is what you get.
But this is it's a preliminary plat. There's still a final plat to come
Okay.
for it.
Because I was wondering, because he said he may move it up 5 feet more if he can, and I didn't know if we should wait to approve it until that.
Yeah, so the steps are to do a preliminary plat initially. That
then
lays
we'll
out
do
the
the final.
standards, and then we'll come
Okay.
back with the final plat that'll have a
Okay.
bit more engineering detail on there.
Thank you.
Is there a motion for the resolution?
So moved. Second.
Motion made in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Resolution passes. The second one is an ordinance approving the rezoning of 2050 Old St. James Road. Tom?
Okay, this is a request for a rezoning from the government and institutional zone to the M1 light manufacturing zone. The property is highlighted in the red. Property is undeveloped currently. You may also remember this is a property that was declared surplus by the city and sold and to the applicant. The applicant has bought it, so the applicant is requesting to rezone it. It was zoned government institutional because the city used to own it, so they're rezoning it to something that, as you can see here, it's zoned GI, but surrounding it is zoned M1, which is the light manufacturing. But then to the south, there is a portion of the property that abuts the R3 zone, which is developed as a duplex development. The future land use plan does designate the entire area as being appropriate for industrial type uses. The street view looking to the south on Old St. James Road, the property, as I said, it's undeveloped, it's just trees right now. In summary, this appears to be consistent with the current and future uses of the area. It does have frontage on our arterial road of Old St. James Road. It is adjacent to a residential area. If the property is developed, it will require some landscaping adjacent to the property. It's either a 30-foot buffer with trees and whatnot, or a 15-foot buffer with trees and whatnot, and a solid fence. No plans have been submitted. The owner has stated that this time they do not intend to develop the property. They've basically bought it as a kind of a buffer to keep other people from developing in front of them, or to hold it in case they need to expand their business at some point. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the request with a 6-0 vote. Before we move on to the public hearing, do you have any questions for me?
Questions for Tom?
Tom, I got a question. I'm guessing you notified the property owners of this R3 property here that are adjacent to it, but were the renters notified?
No, they are not.
They're not given a letter or any, other than, I guess you put up a sign?
We put up a sign and it is put in the newspaper, but they do not receive a letter.
Okay. Any comments from anybody?
No.
Thank you.
This time, I'd like to officially open the public hearing. Is there anyone that owns property within 185 feet of this proposed rezoning that would like to speak for? Is there anyone that owns property within 185 feet of this proposed rezoning that would like to speak against? Is there anyone that owns property outside of the 185 feet that would like to speak for? And finally, is there anyone that owns property outside of the 185 feet that would like to speak against? If not, this closes the public hearing. Any questions from council? If not, can we have the first reading?
An ordinance to approve the rezoning of 2050 Old St. James Road from GI, Governmental and Institutional, to M1, Light Manufacturing.
The next public hearing is for an ordinance approving the rezoning of 4001 Enterprise Drive from M2 to C3. Tom?
There's a request for rezoning. The applicant is Quick Trip. As you said, the request is rezoned from the M2, which is the heavy manufacturing district, to the C3 highway commercial district. Property is highlighted in the red. It's located at the I-44 High Point Industrial Park Drive interchange. Once again, this also is an undeveloped piece of property. It looks a little bit funny shape compared to the property lines, because that will become a little bit more apparent a little bit later on, but the applicant Quick Trip is buying a portion of property from the current property owner, the Rolla Development Corporation.
Now, let me just pursue that. So eventually, the property lines will be consistent with the red lines here.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now, we have later on, there's a minor subdivision that shows that. The property is located across the street from the Loves Travel Center. The Loves is zoned C3, which is, again, the same district as being sought here. Future land use plan identifies the property as being appropriate for industrial and community commercial type uses along the frontage of High Point Industrial Drive. I would interpret that to mean the intent was that the area that fronts on High Point and the interchange was meant for commercial type uses at the time that they were following property lines when it was just drawn. This is a street view looking north from the I-44 interchange. As I said, the property is currently undeveloped. In summary, it appears to be consistent with adjacent current and future uses. There is frontage on High Point Industrial. It also has frontage on the outer road, but it's adjacent to the I-44 interchange. The access and traffic for the applicant is going to be following with the plan is for a gas station type development. But just so you know, that is separate from the zoning, but the access and traffic management will be reviewed by MoDOT, because it is a state highway through that section there. And as I said, it is planned to be a gas station. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of the request with a vote of 6-0. Before I move into the public hearing, did you have any questions for me?
David?
I just had a quick one in terms of, do you know anything from Quick Trip if it's going to be more like a truck type one like Love's, or is it just maybe a normal gas station, or do you even know any of that?
They do have some truck facilities. However, a representative from Quick Trip is here today. I think they're anxious to give you a PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? Have a presentation to help, probably. Yeah. Why don't we have Quick Trip presentation now. Let me take that back. Let me open the public hearing first. So officially open a public hearing for the rezoning of 4001 Enterprise Drive. Sir, would you like to make your presentation?
Yes, we are very excited. My name's Greg Rogers with Quick Trip, 2255 Bluestone Drive, St. Charles, Missouri. So we're very excited about Quick Trip and Quick Trip coming to Rolla. How many of you are familiar with Quick Trip or have been into Quick Trip? Okay, most of you. All right. So great. But yeah, so, you know, I've got a little presentation here. I'll take you guys through it. But big picture, we're excited. I'm the real estate manager, identified this site. I've been down working in the corridor 44, trying to figure out a location. And to your point, yes, we're going to build a convenience store that also services trucks. Okay, similar to Love's, but we focus on the convenience store side of it, and really what we're doing is focusing on local trucks that, you know, the guys that leave every morning and come back every night. And that's really who we're trying to capture. I'll take you through this. So here's our prototype. So this is our Generation 3 store. We came up with this about 9 years ago. So everything you see being built now by Quick Trip is this new prototype with 4 doors. It's really lit up. It's just the flow inside just to help traffic throughout the building. Here's kind of the canopy. Okay, sorry. Oh, okay. So you guys aren't seeing it? Okay.
Seeing the store.
Probably operator error here, me. Okay. I don't know. It's probably operator error. I don't think so. Should I go with the arrow instead?
Either way.
Okay. So there's the canopy, if you can see that in front of you. Okay, there it is. Sorry. All right. I'll watch this screen. That'll probably help me, huh? All right, so this is our kitchen. This is the biggest reason that we created this Generation 3 store is that, 10, 15 years ago, as we were looking out down the road going, cigarettes was a big source of income for convenience stores. And as you can, that's happened over the last year, cigarette sales have greatly decreased. And so we said, hey, what can we do to replace that? And so we've worked for years. Wawa, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but out on the East Coast, huge in the food business. And Quick Trip does a lot of collaboration with them. And they helped us create this kitchen where you can go in, touchscreen, order you a fresh sandwich made. We do sub sandwiches that are made every day in-house. And it's really, if a lot of times you have this gas station food mentality, but our food is out there second to none. It's one of those, I've been with Quick Trip 27 years, worked in the stores 15 years, and I'm like, how hard is it to get a pizza here, guys? Everybody else has pizzas, but Quick Trip, one thing you'll see is that if we can't do it and do it right, we're not going to do it. Because as you guys know, you're going to go someplace, a new restaurant or something, you're going to try it once, maybe twice. And if it's not good the second time, you're probably never going back and spending your money. Because you have a lot of options. And so we've put a lot of time into that. And so this kitchen has been just amazing for us. Here's just kind of some of our staff, our store team members. Here's a little bit of layout of the beverage and tea. Here's the check stand. So now the check stand inside points into the store. So you're not looking out at the gas island. You're looking at your sales floor and you're taking care of your customers. And so here's just some bullet points. Quick Trip, number one in the industry. And that's not me saying that. If you go out and look at any publication out there, we're the number one out there. And that's what our competitors are saying. Cleanliness, friendliness, great service. Fortune, you can see best 100 companies to work for 16 years in a row. One of the top 100 privately held companies. Companies that care. You can see that's kind of a new niche that's coming out. And then we are family owned, employee owned. Okay, second generation of family out of Tulsa, Oklahoma is running it, but they have the employees have ownership in it. So, and then we're not franchisees. So everybody you see working in Quick Trip are Quick Trip employees. And you can see, and I won't get into this, but there's about, I think we've got 4, 8, 12. And these are just rankings. If you look at through the industry, and if you look at all those, we're either number 1 or number 2 from cleanliness to friendliness to fast of service. You're going to see that. Employees are, we look for top people and we pay top people. We ask a lot from people. Like I said, I was in the stores for over 15 years. But you can see our average assistant manager starts out about $38,000. Part-time employees are $10 an hour. Average store manager makes about $78,000 a year. We give bonuses based on attendance, cover customer service, profit, 10% turnover ratio. And we've never laid off a employee since 1958. And that's when the company came in. So average store is about 6 full-time employees and 10 part-time employees. And this store is probably going to have a few more part-time employees than that. Health benefits for all employees, including part-time employees, tuition reimbursement, going to school, and then, like I said, we have full-time employee profit sharing and 401k. So what do we do for the community? Our impact, new jobs, increased tax revenue. Quick Trip contributes 5% of our profits to local communities. United Way is that's our big thing that we do for the company, throughout the company. And so, and then we're also a safe place. Is everybody familiar with that is, a national safe place? If you're not, what that is, if somebody shows up, a child shows up, or something happens and they show up, hey, I need help. Quick Trip, our employees are trained to bring them into the store, protect them from the situation, and then, get the authorities involved. And so that's something we take a lot of pride in. Security, that's another one. We basically, for our security, outside, every inch outside of that store and inside the store, except for the restrooms, okay, are covered by cameras. We have a colonel that we hired out of the military, and that's what he did in the military for 30 years. He's the one that runs our security. So, and we're very active in the police. If something comes up, we're there to help. Then basically another thing about Quick Trip, guarantee. And this is where, when we got into the gas business, because we weren't in the gas business for the first 20 years, we're like, well, how do we get into when you got the Mobiles, the Standards, all these big players, and we're a little Quick Trip in 1970. And so we came up with this, hey, we're going to guarantee it. If you have a problem with your gas and you go to a mechanic and mechanic says, hey, I got some gas and it caused a problem, we're going to fix it. And that's the same to do with anything that we sell. If a customer gets a gallon of milk, goes home and says, hey, this was spoiled, or I didn't like it, or whatever, you bring it back, we'll trade it out. We'll give you your money back. And so this gives you a little bit look on the back side, a little different angle of it. So there's just some different elevations. And so there's what the truck bay will look like. It'll have 7 bays for trucks. It'll have 8 pumps, or be able to service 16 cars. And I can answer any questions that you may have.
I hope your gas is less than $3.50.
Well, sure is now. Yeah, they like to put those big numbers on there for us, so then we got to try to explain it.
Okay. I have a question that has nothing to do with council's action tonight, but your comment about cigarette sales and what that's meant for your fortunes. CBD oil, infused vaping products. There's another one that starts with a K. I can't pronounce it. Does your store sell those?
We do sell the vaping. We don't do CBD oils. And the K one, I'm assuming not, because I don't know what that familiar is. But we do the vaping.
Right.
That's kind of, everybody got into that. And obviously with what's going on, we're reevaluating that is all at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'll circle back to council questions. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Is there anyone that owns property within 185 feet of this proposed rezoning that would like to speak for the rezoning? Is there anyone that owns property within 185 feet that would like to speak against the rezoning? Is there anyone that owns property outside of the 185 feet that would like to speak for the rezoning? And finally, is there anyone that owns property outside of the 185 feet that would like to speak against the rezoning? If not, that closes the public hearing. Council questions? If there are none, can we have the first reading?
An ordinance to approve the rezoning of 4001 Enterprise Drive from M2 Heavy Manufacturing to C3 Highway Commercial.
There are no special presentations tonight. There's no old business tonight. Moving on to new business, the first one is a motion accepting the November 5th, 2019 special election results.
And Mayor, we put that information in the packet, and I'll just mention or point out that we did include the results from all 6 wards, and happy to say that the use tax passed in all 6 wards. I think the county's use tax, which failed countywide, actually passed in 5 of the 6 wards in Rolla, but will not go into effect countywide, so.
Is there a motion to officially accept the special election results?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next item is an ordinance amending Chapter 37 of the code pertaining and enacting the local use tax.
So once the voters approve this, the next action is for the council to do an ordinance that puts it into effect. Once that's done, we file that with Department of Revenue. They spend 45 days on notice, and then it takes effect the following quarter that applies to, and I confirm with them that would be on an April 1, 2020. Of course, as you know, the use tax is really intended to fully fund public safety, but what does that mean? That's going to just have to be discussed with City Council and a plan created to begin to have some of that conversation, knowing that we really won't begin seeing any of those revenues until June 1st, or actually about June 8th, and that'll be ramping up over the next 12 to 15 months. So we're going to have to look at this in phases, probably in 6-month chunks until we get a stabilized revenue source, but enactment of the ordinance is the first step.
Probably at the second December meeting, our thought is to come back with a rough plan as to how that money's going to be spent. I say rough plan because we don't know what we're going to get, and we're not going to see any money till June. Question is, can we have some wiggle room in the existing budget to perhaps make some small down payments before that particular time? So we've got some details to work out, but even then, I don't think we're going to be asking council for any action. I think it's just to give you and the community a sense of what's possibly out there. David?
Yeah, I know staff's going to be putting together that kind of rough idea, and I know we've been over it enough to probably all have a pretty good idea of what the top priorities are for our public safety. But I just was curious, once that kind of plan comes out, is that the kind of opportunity at that point for council to kind of give input or tweak this, tweak that? Is it kind of that meeting the time for that?
Yes, because, I mean, the right thing to do is to probably wait till the budget cycle comes. So that's a document that's very thoroughly prepared. It has council impact, and in fact, you approve that particular budget. That's probably the right way to do that, but we would like to probably get a start on that. So we would be coming back to you with some ideas and approvals.
Right, and that budget process, would that be for like August, September time? Is that what you mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if we don't have to wait, which we don't want to wait that long,
Right.
maybe full enactment. Again, the money's not going to start coming into June, but we'd like to have, we owe it to the people, we owe it to the employees to give them a sense of where we're going.
Right. I completely agree that laying this out already and getting the discussion going can help us really fine tune it for that August, September time. And I think it will put our public safety and our public citizens who voted for this at ease that we're serious about going in the direction to fix the issues we've got. So.
Yeah, but we have to manage expectations. There's not enough money to do everything, so.
Correct.
Rachel, are you?
Yeah, I guess this is maybe already asked and answered, but just since the community was so sort of concerned, making sure, and that we want to obviously show we're doing the good faith effort to make sure that money is going. So there's nothing that will be in the ordinances that will specifically tie into that ballot language, or that will come in the later sort of, once we start seeing stuff coming in?
I can't imagine we can have an ordinance conflicting with the ballot language.
Yeah, okay.
I'm looking at the ordinance itself, and in the title, it reinstates that fully fund public safety needs.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what more we could do.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure to clarify, since I know there were a lot of people who are concerned about that, and obviously we're all really grateful that people voted to support this.
Any other questions? Not, Marie? No. If not, first reading, please.
An ordinance amending Chapter 37 of the Rolla City Code and enacting a new section enacting a use tax at the same rate as the total local sales tax rate to fully fund public safety needs, with any additional funds being applied to other general fund needs.
Next item is an ordinance amending Section 7.9 and 7.26 and 7.27 of the code pertaining to cemeteries.
Good evening. Staff initiated a review of the pricing and the rules of the cemetery, and so your proposed document you have before you includes the price increases for burial fees and lot sales. Last time the pricing was changed was beginning of 2012. Proposed fee structure shown here was approved by the Parks Advisory Commission, as well as the Parks rules and regulations for the cemetery. Those rules essentially been the same since 1997. There was a few minor tweaks made in 2009 when there was a 6-person citizens advisory. It also included council members. And what you see also in the rules are some minor tweaks suggested by the Parks Board upon review. So what we're asking for you to do is approve that entire entity. I should also note that the section relates to 727 relative to the waiver of the fee. We're also suggesting that that not be included and actually omitted going forward. So basically, that's kind of the summation of it. So be glad to take questions, answer.
Any questions for Floyd?
Yeah, I just have a question, just kind of to follow up on that. Because you may not know the answer to this, but for people in Rolla who are indigent or who might struggle to pay for burial fees, what do they do right now?
You're right. I don't know that I would be able to give you an answer on that.
Okay.
I would say that would probably be, we haven't come across that since
Okay.
I've been here, but granted, I've only been here in my position of 3+ years.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't had to come up with that. I think the biggest issue with that particular section is really how do you determine? I mean, somebody could clearly say they have those issues, but then what board, body, how quickly can you get that done within that time frame? So it's a little bit problematic. So you're right, I don't know the answer, but that's the best rationale I can give you for really looking at that particular section.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Well, Rachel, I think if they're indigent, they may not they may have not requested to be buried in the Rolla Cemetery.
Okay.
I mean, that may be something that the county.
Oh, the county
I
helps
think
with?
they have
Okay.
a fund for that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So, do you have any idea how many lots are left in the cemetery for sale?
Well, there's all total about over 16,000. So we still have probably about, I'd say 30 to 50 at least in that last section that we have. We just sold one just this past week. We typically don't sell that many. It usually runs to about 8 to 12, maybe 15 in a given year. So we are, one of the things that we put in the budget that you reviewed for this fiscal year was beginning work on expanding and opening up another section. So we definitely see that as a possibility of something that will be happening. Probably not this year, probably not next year, but something we need to start on because there's a variety of different structures that we have to do in terms of providing access to that area. So I think we're probably good for a couple of more years, but it's something we are cognizant of and that we need to start making plans for and moving ahead with that.
John?
Another question. So Floyd, it looks like you've changed some of the rules about what people can do around graves. Is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't say, not really changing. The only really change that we did is specifically we made an allowance for wooden crosses.
Okay.
Because that was not specifically mentioned in the current rules. It was at one time. So upon review with the Parks Advisory Commission on that particular language and some research on historically what wooden crosses have been utilized in cemeteries, clearly you don't see them used much today at all because they're just not as permanent. The typical wooden cross, according to research, a really good one might last 50 years depending on what part of the country you're in and what the weather conditions and the rain and all that kind of stuff. So, but kind of addressing the point there about funding, not everybody can afford a monument. So we're saying that what we're doing is allowing that can be put in if it's done in such a way as it's more of a permanent structure rather than something that's temporary and a grave decoration. So it's actually something that's that family's monument. So that's really the only change that we've actually made.
Okay. I guess I got a little confused because you have the pictures and you list solar lights and bricks. You've added
So-
bricks. I mean, so you guys don't like people to go in and put things around there?
Well, there's several issues relative to that. So the pictures I showed you, they've always been not allowed in the rules. And so what occurs typically over time, and I'm quoting past cemetery folks who've been involved in it a lot longer than I have, it tends to ebb and flow. So you get somebody that wants to do something a little more. And my guys, generally, we try not to make waves, if at all possible. But, you got two things you really have to consider in the overall cemetery. You're looking at aesthetics, so you want some uniformity. You also want to be sensitive to the families. And then you also have to realize that there's a significant maintenance that's involved. Typically for us, it takes 3 of our staff about 30 hours a week doing nothing but maintaining the cemetery in terms of mowing and weed eating. So the more structures you put around a monument, the more difficult it gets to maintain that area. Plus, then you run into the situation where, your mower, broke this glass jar, and one of those has actually a glass jar. Or your mower hit, or your weed eater hit this particular fence. So those things have never been allowed in the rules, but they tend to crop up over time. So it's just that's another reason why I wanted to bring it to your attention and say, here's what we have, and, to present it for discussion if you want to weigh in on it. But that's kind of the gist of why the pictures were included.
Well, I appreciate that, and I also appreciate you talking about being sensitive to the possible grieving families and how they're dealing with grief and patience, and but I also understand your point. I was just hoping that we weren't going to go in and clean everything out, and without regard for the families.
No, we have a flower removal 4 times a year.
Sure, yeah.
And within that flower removal, in fact, the last one that we sent out, we let people know that basically additions, not just flowers, but additions can also be removed. One of the things that the Parks Advisory Commission specifically wanted to add to the rules that wasn't mentioned before, because it, quite frankly, has been something more of a recent development, and that's the solar lights. And so the more you get of those also then become more problematic in working around. And so you want to be sensitive to everyone in that situation. So you've also got, the families that want to maintain a uniform look, and then you get back to the aesthetics. So it's, quite frankly, it's a juggling act. sometimes you try to do the best you can and be sympathetic to people and.
Before we have the first reading, at some point I'm going to come back to you with what I pretty well know is going to be a controversial comment. And I'm not doing it now because I don't have staff buy-in just yet. But we talk about the future availability of lots, and we take a look at what it costs and what it entails to cut the grass out there. There are major parts of that cemetery that we're cutting with weed whackers. And Floyd's being nice when he says we don't get too many complaints, but some guy hits something with a weed whacker, and we do in fact get complaints. So at some point I would like, and I think several years ago we did it with a committee that had both council and non-council folks on there. But what I'm looking at some point is when we do open another section, reserving that section for just monuments that are level with the ground as opposed to above ground monuments. And now whether they're granite or whether they're bronze or whatever, I don't know. I'm not advocating this, but I do know that the parks is perennially tight on funds, and to have somebody cut acres and acres with weed whackers doesn't make too much sense to me. So at some point I'd like to come back and at least explore the option of a newer section maybe being level with the ground, so those things could be cut much more effectively with mowers. So again, when I get more buy-in at City Hall, I'll come back to you. Okay, if there's no other questions, first reading, please.
An ordinance amending sections 7-9, 7-26, and 7-27 of the general ordinances of the City of Rolla, Missouri, known as the Code of the City of Rolla, Missouri, relating to cemeteries and burials.
Next item is an ordinance approving a minor subdivision, final plat. Quick Trip. Tom?
Okay, as you said, this is a minor subdivision called Quick Trip, number 7067 edition. There we go. Yeah. The property is highlighted in the red. This is a portion of the same property we talked about earlier today with the rezoning. Just move on. The entire property currently is zoned M2, although, as we said earlier today, we're rezoning a portion of the property to the C3 district. Just go ahead and go to the plat. So basically what this is, you saw on the first slide that there was a few lines going through this area. So basically what this will do is combine all this together, all these portions of lots and whatnot, into two platted lots. One of the platted lots is proposed to be sold to the Quick Trip. The other lot, the southern or eastern lot, would be retained by the Rolla Development Corporation to be sold off at some other point. As a part of this as well, these are kind of some easements, and the blue that just popped up is what is also proposed to be vacated as a part of this. They're running through the middle of what would be the Quick Trip development. And as part of the plat, they are dedicating additional easements to sort of be replacement easements for these easements. There's no utilities in the easements, and they're not needed for any current or future utilities, especially with the easements that are to be dedicated. Just in summary, the plat will create two commercial / industrial lots after the rezoning is done. Some will be industrial, some will be commercial. Easements are proposed to be vacated with the plat. Replacement easements are provided with the plat, and appears to be in compliance with all applicable requirements. Do you have any questions for me? Oh, sorry, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval 6-0.
If there's no questions, can we have the first reading, please?
An ordinance to approve the minor subdivision final plat of Quick Trip as number 7067 subdivision and vacating certain easements.
Next item on the agenda is an ordinance approving the minor subdivision final plat for the minor alumni edition.
This is minor subdivision again, minor alumni edition. The Alumni Association has purchased an additional property. It's the area to the north of the building there on Pine Street. And the plans are to basically tear this building down, and they may build a parking lot. It'd also be kind of in reserve for if they did want to do an addition on there. So this plat basically is just to combine all their properties together so that they'll have that ability to do that. The property is currently zoned Center City. Street view, this is looking basically at that building that they purchased and would be torn down. This is the plat, pretty simple. It's just combining all their holdings into one lot. You can see that they had previously vacated an alley and a part of the right-of-way 11th Street, so this also sort of cleans that up as well. Just in summary, it combines their properties into one lot. It's intended to allow for the development of a parking lot at this time. It appears to be in compliance with all the requirements. Do you have any questions for me? Oh, once again, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of the request with a vote of 6-0.
Rachel?
So they're not building a parking garage?
Not building a parking garage.
Everybody I hear will be disappointed to hear that.
Could they?
Yeah, they could.
Okay.
Too small to functionally do it there.
Yeah.
But I don't want somebody to
Said
say
could instead
no,
of should,
meaning
so.
no is never.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, this will be just for the minor association, won't be for public use?
Well, part of their reasoning for this is they have events and whatnot in the building every so often, and so part of the reasoning is to kind of allow for some more parking for that. But I think during the day, I think the idea is it'll sort of be available as needed. So I mean, the public uses the building in some way, but no, it wouldn't. My understanding is it's not to just allow for. It wouldn't be just a student parking lot.
David?
I don't want to get too in the weeds, but I did want to ask a question based on what Rachel had said. In the past, I've heard something about parking garages too. Is that something that has ever been proposed with council, or is it kind of
The last
all
time,
in
the
SMT's
last time I
hands?
think Steve, at least I asked Steve, but I also asked the university, it's $20,000 a parking space, $25,000 a parking space.
Yeah, never gonna do it.
I see.
So,
It wasn't something like the city or county turned down in terms of we don't want it or something like that. It's just money-wise.
economics.
Gotcha.
There's a reason why you pay so much money at Barnes.
Cheaper to buy a house.
There you go.
There's no other questions. Can we have the first reading, please?
An ordinance to approve the minor subdivision final plat of minor alumni addition.
Next item is an ordinance approving a minor subdivision plat of Old Wire Road, plat number 1.
This is the properties highlighted in red. Basically, the applicant owns 3 platted lots. They've built a hotel across 2 of the platted lots. And so the request is to sort of reorganize these properties so it'll be from 3 lots, there'll be 2 lots. The property is zoned C2, which is the highway commercial zoning. No, it's I think it's general retail is what that is. Anyway, the north half of the property is currently undeveloped. The south half, as I said, is been developed as a hotel. This is the plat. So when the 2 lots, just in summary, the plat combines their properties to create 2 commercial lots. One is currently developed, one is currently undeveloped, and appears to be in compliance with all requirements. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval with a vote of 6-0.
Any questions for Tom? If not, can we have the first reading, please?
An ordinance to approve the minor subdivision final plat of Old Wire Road, plat number 1.
Moving on to claims and/or fiscal transactions, we have one item, which is a motion awarding a bid for project 501. Darren?
So staff opened bids for project 501. It's refinishing the basketball court at the center. We received 3 bids. Langford Enterprises Incorporated was low bid at $23,800. You've got a copy of the bid tabulation attached. So staff's requesting a motion to award the bid to low bidder, and first reading of ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Langford Enterprises for $23,800. Any questions? Yeah.
What does it mean to refinish? And What are they going to
So they're going to completely sand it down to bare wood, repaint it, all the lines, and put new finish on the surface.
Now, some areas of that corridor, trying to think of the word, are not exactly sound.
Correct?
Are they going to fix that as well?
That's part of it, yes.
Okay.
I don't think we've refinished it, and I think it's well overdue, isn't it?
That'd be correct. I think it's been top coated a couple times, but it is definitely due for a refinish.
I think the recommendation was every 8 to 10 years, and it's 18 years old, and this will be our first time doing it.
All right, so I'm going to do the obvious question here. You have a budget appropriation of $42,000 and our low bid is $23,800. Are we sure that's going to get us the quality work that we really need?
So I asked for a list of references. I called several of them, left messages, heard back from one of them, got glowing reviews, reviewing their website. I mean, they do big stuff. I mean, the one I heard back from was Missouri Southern State University. They finished a court for them. Pittsburgh Public Schools in Pittsburgh, Kansas, Carthage Schools. I mean, they do big jobs. So, and like I said, the one person I did talk to gave them a glowing recommendation.
Yeah, not opposed to saving money, but.
Right.
The other thing about that is Missouri Floor does a lot of floors in this area.
Okay.
And that's who we had reached out to, and so we based the budget on the budget estimate that they had given, and their proposal was an extra week of work. Some reasons it was inflated, as it turned out, so I think we're happy.
And they're a
with the
union
results.
contractor.
When's it going to be done and how long?
So we're allowing them up to 6 weeks. We gave them 2 windows, one window in December, one window in February. Last time I talked to him, it sounded like the February window was what was going to fit their schedule.
So I'm curious. I would have thought the courts would be used heavier in the winter months than in the summer months.
Just according to Marcy, summer months are their busiest months.
Yeah, with the licking tournaments.
With the licking basketball tournaments and stuff. They've got something scheduled at the end of January.
Okay. You answered the question. They took that into consideration, so I'm good. Thank you. David?
Just a quick question in terms of like where this comes out of the budget, and also I noticed Darren's working on this as opposed to
The center budget.
Yeah, center budget is where it comes out of, and it's just your experience with doing contracting stuff is what brought you in.
Yes, I've been making the offer to any of the departments. Anything that's going to require bonding. In this case, we thought it was going to be over 25,000, so we required bonding. So, been making that offer to any department that we'd be more than happy to help them out.
Great, thanks.
Darren, 2 questions.
Yeah.
Do they guarantee their work and the projected life of the floor?
Projected life of floor. They recommend every 3 to 4 years doing just a refinish on the top, light sand, and then 8 to 10 years on a complete refinish. The warranty will come from the supplier of the material, and I believe it's got a 2-year warranty, what we expect.
There's no other question. Is there a motion to award the bid for Langford Enterprises?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? May we have the first reading, please?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Rolla, Missouri to execute on behalf of the city of Rolla, Missouri, a certain agreement between the city of Rolla, Missouri and Langford Enterprises Incorporated for center basketball court refinishing project number 501.
Thank you. Moving on to Mayor and City Council comments. The first is a recognition of Small Business Saturday. If you look at Rolla and you look at our major employment, certainly small business in the aggregate represents a huge part of our economic base. So every year we recognize and bring that fact to the citizens' attention to encourage shopping locally. This proclamation will be given a week from tomorrow downtown, which will not only coincide with kicking off Small Business Week, but also the start of the Christmas shopping season, believe it or not. So what I'd like to do is like to read the proclamation for those that may not be able to attend. Whereas the city of Rolla, Missouri celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 28.8 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of all businesses with employees in the United States and they are responsible for 63% of net new jobs created over the past 20 years. Whereas small businesses employ 48% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, and small businesses form the backbone of our local economy, generating jobs and improving the quality of life for our citizens. Whereas Rolla, Missouri issues some 1,220 business licenses each year and supports the efforts of local small businesses and recognizes the critical role that they play in our community. Whereas Small Business Saturday is a nationwide campaign to cultivate business for small merchants on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Small Business Saturday will stimulate economic growth for merchants in our community. And whereas Rolla, Missouri values its local businesses and celebrates the diversity of goods and services they provide. Now therefore I, Louis Magditz IV, Mayor of the City of Rolla, Missouri, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 30th, 2019 as Small Business Saturday. So I encourage everyone to shop locally for a lot of reasons. The next two items were appointments, and I would like to set those aside. I have the bios, but I got them to City Hall too late, and I know when I was a council person, I valued having those particular bios in my hand. As a matter of fact, I think I was the one that insisted that they be in the packet. So we can certainly defer both of those. Any other city council comments not on the agenda? Yes, sir.
I just want to make a quick comment and say how much I appreciated all of the staff who showed up to the first Schumann Bear Lawn Park planning meeting, and all of the city council members who were there. It was a really good learning opportunity, hearing from people who live in the neighborhood, who own property in the neighborhood, some of the concerns. And I'm excited to learn more about what we can do to help them.
David?
I was going to mention something similar and just also thank Tom for his efforts in putting that all together. And I don't know if he'd be able to shortly summarize what the next steps will be, just so we all have an idea of what residents are expected if he's around. Oh, yeah. Next time, maybe. Thanks, Tom.
Matthew?
Mayor, I was wondering if we could have an update from our chief regarding the threat of the school shooting that we had today.
Yeah.
Yes. Chief, are you at liberty to?
We learned about the threat of the school shooting on Saturday. That's when we first learned about it. It was a junior high school student, and all he did was he made a comment that said, hey, don't go to school on Monday. He never said anything about a threat. He never said anything about shooting. Monday was his birthday, and he didn't want anybody to go to school because it was his birthday. What happened was a couple of girls at the school decided to take this and run with it, put it on social media that there was going to be a school shooting on Monday, and then it just went like wildfire over the internet. It went from being at the junior high school to it was going to be a shooting at the high school, and then it included most of the elementary schools at the same time. All three students were taken into custody and turned over to the juvenile authorities, and it was just a comment made by one kid in passing, and two other kids took it and ran with it, and it's like when you tell a rumor, it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing over the internet. Just to be safe, like I said, all three kids were taken into custody. They are all suspended. But just to be safe, we had officers in every school this morning, and we had officers in the junior high and the high school this afternoon when they got out also. And that was more just to alleviate the parents' problems, because all weekend long our department was inundated by phone calls from parents. So it ended up being really nothing, but we take any kind of threat like that very serious. So because of that, that's why we had people in all weekend working on it. Our detectives did a great job figuring out exactly who it was and getting them in and getting them to admit what exactly happened.
Chief, having gone through this scare, does it show that we're well prepared in the event something like this were to happen, or are there gaps in our preparedness?
you can never truly be prepared for an active shooter incident, but all of our police officers have been trained. They get trained at least once a year in active shooter, where, I mean, you're trained at the first two officers that get there. They don't, you know, we all learned our lessons from Columbine, where all the policemen were staying outside waiting for a attack team to show up. All the people inside, you know, the two people inside were killing students. We have been trained now to just go in there and take out the threat. It's just something you hope to God never happens, but there is enough law enforcement in this city that if a call like that came out, within moments that school would have several police officers there with one mission in mind, and it is basically just to take out the threat if there is one. So I think, you know, we send our people to the training for it and pray to God that we never have to use it.
Well, nice work on finding out and getting to the bottom of this in a very quick and timely manner.
Thanks, Chief. Any other council comments not on the agenda? Citizen communications. Is there any citizens that would like to speak to City Council? Frank?
It's that time of year ago again. My name is Frank Furman, 403 Hutchinson, and it's time for the library book sale. Oops. So Thursday we're going to have membership. You can come in between 5 and 8. Members, it's a members only night. You can join at the door. Seniors and students can join for $5 for a year. Singles for 10, families for 25. Contributing members between 50 and 99, and patrons at 100. We're going to be open on Friday between 9 and 7, and Saturday between 9 and 2:15, and then we'll be closing out between 2:30 and 4:30 with our buck-a-bag sale. So please all come and support the library. All money goes to the library, to us.
For those of us that are not digital readers, this is a bargain. When you consider a hardback book today is north of $25, I walk out of more books than I can carry and maybe spend $2 a book. So.
And when you're done, you can donate them back to us.
How many times a year do you do this?
We do it twice a year.
Okay.
And so it's a lot of work for a lot of dedicated women and men, and I will be going over there in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Any other citizens that would like to speak to City Council? Comments for the good of the order? Moving on to closed session, we have one item tonight, which is real estate. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Eberly,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Boland,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Reuter,
Yes.
Mush,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Schott,
Yes.
Roeder.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Half the time, we don't make this. We're going to make this issue.
Tickets for what?
The Rotary Christmas luncheon.
Ah, okay. Very good.
Question. Here,
When is that?